What if I told you that the next 12 months will decide whether you live with pride or regret for the rest of your life? What if the difference between success and disappointment is not talent, luck, or timing, but 5 decisions you either make now or avoid until it is too late? Listen carefully. Most people think a new year changes their life. It doesn't, a decision does. And before 2026 begins, there are 5 things you must do, not someday, not when you feel ready, but now. Because comfort is seductive and delay is dangerous. Here is the truth most people never hear. You don't drift into a meaningful life. You design, and design always starts with honesty, brutal honesty. You must look at where you are and stop lying to yourself about why you are there. It is not the economy. It is not your past. It is not other people. It is the choices you repeated. Think about this. Every system in your life is perfectly designed to get the results you are getting right now. Your health, your income, your confidence, your relationships. If you don't like the results, you don't need motivation. You need a new system. Before 2026 begins, the first thing you must do is decide what you stand for. Not what sounds good, not what gets applause, what you stand for when no one is watching. Because when you are clear on your why, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like protection. I once met someone who worked nonstop, always busy, always exhausted, yet deeply unfulfilled. When asked what they were building toward, they went silent. Busy without direction is just disguised avoidance. They were not lazy, they were unclear. And clarity changes everything. When you know your reason, you stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing the right ones. You stop saying yes to please others and start saying no to protect your future. This is where real confidence begins. So before the calendar changes, ask yourself one uncomfortable question. If nothing changes in my habits, my thinking, and my standards, will I be proud of where I am this time next year? If the answer scares you, good. Fear is a signal. And this is where your transformation begins. Do not waste this moment waiting for inspiration. Inspiration follows action. Decide now to act with intention, courage, and purpose, because the future you want is not found later. It is built by what you choose to do next, starting today, right now. No excuses. Period. Decide. Before 2026 begins, the second thing you must do is confront the habit that is quietly stealing your future. Not the obvious ones, not the dramatic failures, the small excuses you repeat daily, the ones that sound reasonable, the ones that feel harmless. Those are the most dangerous. Every time you say, I'll start next week, you train your brain to delay action. Every time you say, I'm not ready, you reinforce fear as authority. Readiness is a myth. No one feels ready before growth. Courage comes after the step, not before it. Think of the moments you knew what to do, but chose comfort instead. Stayed silent when you should have spoken. Scrawled when you should have studied. Slept when you should have built. Those moments didn't seem important then, but stacked together, they quietly shaped your identity. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You don't lack time. You lack standards. You always make time for what you value. If something truly matters, it finds space in your calendar. If it doesn't, excuses rush in to protect your comfort. I once watched someone say they wanted change while defending every habit keeping them stuck. They didn't need advice, they needed honesty. Because until you are willing to let go of who you are, you cannot become who you want to be. Before 2026 begins, choose one habit that weakens you and end it deliberately. Not gradually, not someday. Decide that it no longer belongs in your life. Replace it with a behavior that moves you forward, even if it feels awkward at first. Growth feels uncomfortable because it is unfamiliar. The brain prefers predictable pain over uncertain progress. That is why discipline feels heavy at the beginning. But discipline is simply choosing future relief over present comfort. Imagine yourself 1 year from now, looking back at this moment. Will you be grateful that you acted despite fear, or disappointed that you waited again? The answer depends on what you tolerate today. This is not about perfection. It is about alignment. Your actions must match the future you say you want. When they do, momentum appears. Confidence grows and excuses lose their power. So stop negotiating with habits that cost you your potential. Decide who you are becoming and let your daily behavior prove it. Because the future is not shaped by big promises. It is shaped by small decisions repeated with courage, consistency, and self-respect. This moment matters more than you think. And choosing differently now quietly changes everything you believe about yourself forever, starting with this single decision before 2026 begins. The third thing you must do is take responsibility without blaming anyone or anything. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about power. The moment you blame something outside yourself, you give away control over your future. Most people misunderstand responsibility. They think it means accepting fault for everything. It does not. It means accepting influence. You may not control what happened to you, but you absolutely control what happens next. I have seen people with fewer resources build extraordinary lives, and people with every advantage stay stuck. The difference was never intelligence. It was ownership. The ones who moved forward stopped asking who caused the problem and started asking what they could do about it. Blame feels good in the short term. It protects the ego. It tells a comforting story where you are the victim of circumstances. Responsibility feels heavy at first because it removes excuses. But it also gives you leverage. Think about a time when something went wrong and your first instinct was to defend yourself. That instinct is natural, but is also limiting. Growth begins the moment you replace defense with curiosity. Ask yourself better questions. Instead of asking why this happened to me, ask what is this trying to teach me. Instead of asking who failed me, ask how can I improve my process. Better questions create better futures. Before 2026 begins, decide that no matter what happens, you will own your response. When you do this, frustration turns into focus. Anger turns into strategy. Pain turns into progress. I once watched someone lose an opportunity they deeply wanted. They could have blamed timing, politics, or bad luck. Instead, they reviewed their preparation honestly. They adjusted. The next opportunity, they didn't just succeed, they excelled. Responsibility is the foundation of leadership, even if you lead no one but yourself. People trust those who own outcomes, not those who explain them away. This is where confidence is built, not from winning every time, but from knowing that whatever happens, you will respond with integrity and effort. If you want the next year to be different, stop waiting for fair conditions. Life is not fair, but it is responsive. It responds to clarity, consistency, and courage. So before the year changes, make this decision. Nothing outside me controls my growth. I am responsible. And because I am responsible, I am free. This belief changes how you wake up, how you act under pressure, how you recover from failure, and how you build a future anchored in ownership, not excuses starting today now. Before 2026 begins, the fourth thing you must do is redefine success before the world defines it for you. Because if you don't decide what winning looks like, you will spend your life chasing someone else's scoreboard. Most people inherit their definition of success. More money, more status, more validation. And then one day they achieve it and feel strangely empty. Not because success is bad, but because it was never theirs to begin with. Ask yourself honestly, if no one could see your life, no one could applaud you, no one could compare themselves to you, what would matter? What would you still choose to build? That answer reveals what success actually means to you. I have seen people climb ladders only to realize they leaned them against the wrong wall. They worked harder, sacrificed more, stayed longer, and still felt lost. The problem was never effort, it was direction. Before 2026 begins, you must decide what a good life means to you, not in theory, but in practice. How you spend your mornings, how you treat people when you are tired, how you define enough. Success without alignment is exhaustion. Alignment without success is peace. The goal is not one or the other. The goal is both. Think about the pressure you feel to keep up, to prove, to perform. That pressure doesn't come from purpose. It comes from comparison, and comparison quietly robs you of joy and clarity. When you define success clearly, decisions become easier. You stop saying yes out of fear. You stop chasing what looks impressive but feels wrong. You start building something sustainable. I once met someone who turned down a prestigious opportunity that everyone else wanted. People called it a mistake. Years later, they were fulfilled, present, and proud of the life they built. The applause faded, the peace remained. Before the year changes, write your own definition of success, not a sentence you post online, a standard you live by, one that includes growth, contribution, and rest. Remember this. The goal is not to be busy. The goal is to be meaningful. The goal is not to impress everyone. The goal is to respect yourself. When your actions align with your values, motivation becomes natural. You no longer need constant reminders to stay on track. Your choices pull you forward. So decide now. Decide what matters. Decide what enough looks like. Decide what kind of life is worth your energy. Because when the calendar turns, the world will keep shouting its version of success at you. And if you are not clear, you will listen. But if you are clear, you will lead yourself with confidence, calm, and purpose into the year ahead and beyond. Before 2026 begins, the fifth thing you must do is choose long-term discipline over short-term emotion. This is where most people fail, not because they don't know what to do, but because they let how they feel decide what they do. Feelings are powerful, but they are terrible leaders. Motivation comes and goes. Confidence rises and falls. If your actions depend on emotion, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline is not harsh. Discipline is loyalty to the future you said you wanted. Think about how many times you waited to feel inspired before acting. How often you told yourself you would start when you felt confident, energized, or ready. But the people who change their lives don't wait for the right feeling. They act, and the feeling follows. There was a time when someone committed to waking up early to work on their dream. The first week was painful. The bed felt warmer than the goal. Every morning felt like a battle, but they showed up anyway. Weeks later, it became identity. They were no longer trying to be disciplined. They were disciplined. This is how real change happens. Not through intensity, but through consistency. Small actions done daily, even when no one is watching, even when it feels boring, build extraordinary results over time. Before 2026 begins, decide on one daily non-negotiable habit that moves your life forward. One, not 10, one that you do regardless of mood. Reading, training, writing, planning. Choose it and protect it. Your future does not need dramatic transformation. It needs reliable execution, the kind that feels unimpressive today but becomes powerful with time. Understand this clearly. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about freedom. When you control your actions, you stop being controlled by circumstances. You stop reacting and start leading yourself. Most people want freedom without structure, but structure is what creates freedom. Athletes, artists, leaders all understand this. Their discipline gives them range, confidence, and peace. Imagine reaching the end of next year knowing you kept promises to yourself. That feeling is stronger than any temporary pleasure you give up today. Self-trust is built when your actions match your words. So stop asking how you feel and start asking what the moment requires. Stop negotiating with discomfort. Discomfort is temporary. Regret lasts longer. Before the year changes, make this commitment. I will act in alignment with my goals, not my moods. I will choose progress over pleasure. I will show up even when it is hard. Because when discipline becomes your habit, confidence becomes your result. And the life you want stops being a wish and starts becoming inevitable through daily actions taken quietly with strength, focus, and courage every single day. Before 2026 begins, the sixth thing you must do is audit your environment. Because your environment is shaping your behavior more than your willpower ever will. Most people try to change their life without changing what surrounds them, and then they wonder why they keep falling back into old patterns. Look around. The people you talk to, the content you consume, the conversations you tolerate, the places you spend your time, none of this is neutral. Everything is either pulling you forward or quietly holding you back. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. That is not a weakness. That is human nature. We adapt to what is normal around us. Think about this honestly. If someone watched your daily life without hearing your goals, what future would they predict for you? Your actions reveal your direction more accurately than your words ever will. I once saw someone who wanted growth, but stayed surrounded by people who mocked ambition. Every new idea was met with sarcasm. Every attempt at change was met with doubt. Over time, their fire didn't explode, it dimmed. Not because they were weak, but because they were outnumbered. Before 2026 begins, you must make a courageous decision. Reduce exposure to people and inputs that drain you, even if they are familiar, especially if they are familiar. Familiarity feels safe, but it often keeps you stuck. This does not mean cutting everyone off or becoming cold. It means being intentional. You can love people and still choose distance. You can care deeply and still protect your focus. Your environment also includes what you feed your mind. Endless noise, constant comparison, negative headlines, empty entertainment. These things slowly erode clarity. You don't notice it day to day, but you feel it when you try to focus and can't. Upgrade what you listen to, what you read, what you watch when no one is telling you what to do, because those private moments are shaping your public results. Before the year changes, design your surroundings to support the person you are becoming. Put reminders of your goals where you can see them. Remove distractions that sabotage your discipline. Spend more time with people who challenge you to grow, not just people who help you escape. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming intentional. When your environment supports your values, discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes natural. Progress becomes predictable. Remember this, you don't need more motivation, you need fewer obstacles. You don't need more pressure, you need better positioning. So take responsibility for what surrounds you. Curate your inputs. Choose your company wisely. Protect your attention like it matters, because it does. When your environment changes, your behavior changes. When your behavior changes, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your future follows quietly, steadily, and powerfully into the year ahead and beyond without force or struggle. Before 2026 begins, the seventh thing you must do is rebuild trust with yourself, not with promises, with proof. Because the most damaging betrayal is not from others. It is the one that happens every time you say you will do something and don't. Self-trust is fragile. It is built slowly and broken easily. Every broken promise, even the small ones, teaches your mind a dangerous lesson that your words don't matter. Over time, motivation fades, confidence weakens, and you stop believing in your own potential. Think about how often you say tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll change. Tomorrow I'll be disciplined. Tomorrow becomes a hiding place where responsibility goes to rest. And each time you hide there, you lose a little respect for yourself. The most confident people are not confident because they are fearless. They are confident because they keep agreements with themselves, even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. I once watched someone struggle for years, not because they lacked ability, but because they didn't trust themselves anymore. They had failed themselves too many times. Big goals felt impossible because small actions felt unreliable. The solution was not more pressure. It was smaller promises. Commitments so small they were impossible to ignore and impossible to excuse. 5 minutes of focus, 1 page read, 1 honest conversation, and then doing it every day. Before 2026 begins, stop making dramatic promises to change your life overnight. Start making quiet promises you can keep. Promise consistency, not intensity. Promise effort, not perfection. Each time you follow through, something powerful happens. Your mind takes note. You begin to believe your own words again. Confidence doesn't shout. It grows quietly. Understand this. Discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It is about being reliable. And reliability creates momentum. When you trust yourself, decisions become easier. You don't debate as much. You don't overthink. You act. Because you know you will follow through. Imagine how different your life would feel if you trusted yourself completely. If you knew that when you decided something, it would happen. That level of self-trust is rare, and it is built intentionally. Before the year changes, choose one promise to yourself that you will keep no matter what, not the biggest, the most meaningful, then keep it. Let it be non-negotiable, and when you fail, because you will at some point, don't quit. Repair the trust quickly. Get back to action. Self-trust is not about never falling. It is about always returning. This is how identity changes. Not through words, but through evidence, action after action, day after day. When you trust yourself, you stop seeking validation. You stop waiting for permission. You move with calm certainty. So rebuild the relationship that matters most. Keep your word to yourself. Let your actions speak. And step into the next year knowing you are someone you can rely on, respect, and believe in fully without doubt or hesitation. Before 2026 begins, the 8th thing you must do is let go of the identity that no longer serves you. This is hard because even pain can feel familiar and familiarity feels safe. But the version of you that got you here is not the version that will take you forward. Most people try to change their life while protecting their old identity. They say they want growth, but they cling to old labels. I am bad with money. I am not disciplined. I am just not that kind of person. These are not facts, they are stories. And stories can be rewritten. Your identity is simply the pattern of behaviors you repeat. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want a new future, you must be willing to release the story that explains why you can't have it. Think about how often you introduce yourself internally with limitation. You fail once and call yourself a failure. You struggle and call yourself weak. But you are not your worst moment. You are the direction you choose next. I once saw someone trapped by a past mistake, years past, but they kept reliving it, explaining themselves through it. The mistake became their identity. The moment they decided to stop defending who they were and start building who they wanted to become, everything shifted. Before 2026 begins, you must stop asking who you have been and start asking who you are becoming. Identity follows behavior, not the other way around. You don't become confident and then act boldly. You act boldly and confidence catches up. This means you will feel like an imposter at first. Good. That is a sign of growth. New identities always feel uncomfortable before they feel natural. If it feels awkward, it means you are expanding. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Growth often confuses people who benefit from your old version. You don't need permission to evolve. You need courage. Your past explains you. It does not define you. And the moment you stop using it as an excuse, it becomes a lesson instead of a limit. Before the year changes, decide which identity you are releasing: the procrastinator, the people pleaser, the victim, the one who always almost tries. Thank it for getting you this far and then move on. You are allowed to outgrow old versions of yourself. You are allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to change your mind. Every action you take from this point forward casts a vote for the person you are becoming. Vote intentionally. When you let go of who you were, you make space for who you can be. And that space is where confidence, clarity, and purpose begin to grow. Step into the next year lighter, not carrying old labels, not dragging old stories, but walking forward with intention, choosing daily to become someone aligned with your values, your vision, and the future you are ready to build now. Before 2026 begins, the 9th thing you must do is learn to sit with discomfort without running from it. Because every meaningful change you want is on the other side of something uncomfortable. And most people quit not because it is impossible, but because it is unfamiliar. Discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are stretching beyond what you know. Yet we are taught to avoid it, numb it, distract ourselves from it. And every time we escape discomfort, we also escape growth. Think about the moments you felt resistance. When your heart beat faster before a hard conversation. When your mind searched for distractions instead of focus. When fear whispered that you were not ready. Those moments were not warning signs, they were invitations. I once saw someone give up right before a breakthrough. Not because they failed, but because they felt uncomfortable being seen trying. They chose familiar disappointment over unfamiliar possibility. And that choice cost them more than failure ever could. Before 2026 begins, you must change your relationship with discomfort. Stop labeling it as danger. Start seeing it as training. Every time you stay present instead of escaping, you build resilience. Every time you act despite discomfort, you build courage. Growth does not announce itself with confidence. It arrives disguised as doubt, effort, and uncertainty. If you wait to feel calm before acting, you will wait forever. Discomfort is temporary, but the strength you gain from facing it compounds. The first time is the hardest. The second time is easier. Eventually, what once scared you becomes normal. Before the year changes, choose one area of your life where you will stop avoiding discomfort. Speak the truth you've been holding back. Do the work you've been delaying. Show up where you've been hiding. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. Willing to feel awkward. Willing to be imperfect. Willing to learn in public. This is how capacity expands. This is how confidence is earned, not by avoiding discomfort, but by surviving it and realizing you are stronger than you thought. When you stop running from discomfort, it loses its power over you. You begin to trust yourself in hard moments. You realize you can handle more than you imagine. So don't ask how to make it easier. Ask how to stay present. Stay in the moment. Stay in the effort. Stay in the growth, because the life you want is not waiting in comfort. It is waiting where courage meets discomfort. And every time you choose to stay instead of escape, you step closer to the future you are meant to build with strength, clarity, and unshakable inner belief. Before 2026 begins, the 10th and final thing you must do is commit to becoming consistent long after the excitement fades. Because transformation does not happen in moments of inspiration. It happens in seasons of repetition when no one is cheering and nothing feels new. Most people start strong. New goals, new plans, new energy. And then life interrupts. Progress slows. Results delay. and they mistake silence for failure. But silence is where growth is happening. The people who change their lives are not the ones who feel motivated every day. They are the ones who keep showing up after motivation leaves. When the routine feels boring, when the results feel invisible, when quitting would be easier, think about how many times you started something and stopped because it lost its excitement. That was not failure. That was the moment discipline was supposed to take over. Consistency begins where excitement ends. I once saw someone work for months with no visible progress, no praise, no breakthrough, just effort, quiet, steady effort. And then one day everything changed. Not because of luck, but because consistency finally had time to compound. Before 2026 begins, you must accept this truth. Results are delayed, effort is immediate. If you only trust what you can see,